Today we're going to talk about something that we all sense but seldom say out loud. The fact that the so-called Great Divide between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is nowhere near as pronounced or oppositional as people make it seem. People make it seem like Republicans and Democrats are diametrically opposed, but they're not. Yes, there are differences, but when you look under the surface, overwhelmingly, the one fundamental thing that these parties have in common is the concept of money over people. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Antoinette Chanel. Welcome to my channel, and let's start with the cast of characters that we were told was fighting on our behalf. And when I mention these folks, I'm talking about people like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. Nancy Pelosi's estimated net worth recently jumped dramatically. Her portfolio and property holdings are reported to be at hundreds of millions of dollars. Schumer's wealth is far more modest, but the data shows that he's in a very comfortable position relative to most Americans that he claims to be fighting for. And the point here isn't to shame anybody, it's to point out how far removed our leaders are from representing and fighting for us and the causes that they claim to represent. We have folks in high office who do not live paycheck to paycheck, who get healthcare outside of standard systems, whose children and grandchildren will inherit large assets upon their passing. And yet these are the people who are legislating for a public that is largely struggling right now. And so you might think, oh, well, Republicans are completely different. And yes, there are ideological differences. But when you examine who benefits and how policy gets shaped and who holds political power over decades, those differences start to blur. The Democratic Party today claims to represent Black people, the LGBTQIA+ community, the working man, and immigrants. It's a pretty broad coalition. The Republican Party claims to represent Christians, Catholics, rural white Americans, small business, and traditional values. That's also a pretty wide umbrella to cast, yet both parties support big money, institutional power, and corporate influence. Both allow and facilitate systems through which the elite can thrive, while many of their other supposed constituents continue to struggle. Because here's what happens when those in power start to focus more on maintaining the system rather than reforming it. The system begins to break down. For example, the expectation that the Obama years would bring sweeping positive change for Black communities. Yet many of the structural issues that kept Black people oppressed were not at all addressed under Obama's two-term presidency. However, his media coverage and personal brand soared under his presidency. In education, something that I'm very well acquainted with because I work in that industry, I see the embrace of tech, the embrace of modern tools, but I still see the failure to address the dysregulation, the dysgraphia, the dyslexia that is running rampant with today's kids. And a lot of the money that gets raised to supposedly address these problems is not being applied to the issues that it was raised for. And then it also becomes very easy for citizens within this system to become, I don't know, like smug and okay with being smug? Because earlier in 2025, we had a lot of people on the internet who were mocking farmers because they were losing their subsidies. We were fresh off the election, fresh off the inauguration, and the farmers were being hit first because those subsidies got snatched up when Elon Musk decided to go through and eliminate all of the waste and unnecessary spending. The same people who were doing the mocking in the beginning of 2025 are now also crying on the internet about how food banks are running out of supplies. Similarly, we had a lot of people taunting small business owners because, haha, you can't run your business with these new tariffs that you voted for, or that we assume that you voted for. Those same people are now crying about being laid off and unemployed because mass layoffs are happening. None of this is a coincidence. It's the result of a system designed to preserve itself, staffed by politicians who were more committed to their next term term than they were to the people they were supposed to represent. Their own financial security took precedence over preserving the checks and balances that keep democracy running. But because a lot of people are uninformed, they don't actually recognize how all of these things are connected, how farmers losing their subsidies could negatively impact your ability to put food on the table. So, what's the solution? I don't have all the answers, but I do know a few things. The two-party system as it currently stands has not served swaths of American people for decades. When one party claims to be for us, but they are quietly aligned with institutional money, and the other party claims to be for us, but they play by the same rules, you end up with a mismatch. Teaching people to come together sounds really nice, but I think human nature shows that we inherently resist that. And I say this because we've seen the failure of forced diversity. It didn't get rid of anti-blackness. It really just forced bigotry underground, waiting for the right orange troll to come along and set it free again. Now all of the extremism is in our faces and out in the open. But the funny part is that we also need each other without realizing it. The isolation created by political branding, identity packaging, and economic stratification is the problem. Here's my takeaway. The Democratic and Republican parties might feel like they are different as you watch your evening news or maybe read over some headlines as you scroll on social media. But when you peel back the graphics and the slogans and the brand campaigns, they can be seen as two sides of the same coin. Now, this is the point at which some keyboard warriors are probably angrily typing comments to say, hey, one party clearly aligns itself with Nazis and the other one doesn't. How could you claim that they are the same? Yes, that's true. There is one party that's aligning itself more publicly with Nazism and all of that horrible stuff. The Democrats who are in office right now, who were also in positions 20 years ago, they saw this too. They have known about the possibility of a resurgence of Hitler ideology in this country. And my hypothesis is that they didn't do enough to ward off from this reality coming to fruition. They talked a lot about it, but actually taking action against it, no. Both Democrats and Republicans serve a system built for money and power. They both protect the status quo. And when that system fails, people suffer. So yes, if you're frustrated, you're not wrong. This system has an expiration date. And the people who could have held it together and done something to intervene 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago even, did not in the way that they promised they would. They served themselves. And now look where we are. I personally believe that a sizable part of the American population is ready to move past Republican versus Democratic. We just need to have our voices heard, our interests served, and can we maybe put a stop to all of this extremism, please? But first we have to live through whatever toppling of the rich and powerful looks like. Because I don't think that we can have both at the same time. I don't think we can have our voices heard, our concerns taken into account, and also still have this system where rich and powerful people just want to serve themselves while telling us that they're serving us. Those are my thoughts. Friends, if you made it all the way to the end of this politically charged video, thanks, appreciate you. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up because this isn't gonna trend in the algorithm. So any help that you can give me for traction, I very much appreciate. Also, if you like my content, consider hitting the subscribe button so you can see all my playlists and get notified when I upload to YouTube. Thank you so much, my friends, and I will catch up with you in the next video. Take care. You've just watched one of my videos, but did you know there's an entire Antoinetteverse? On my namesake YouTube channel, I dive into current events and share my critical commentary. Over on Instagram, you can keep up with my life as a writer and educational specialist. On the Write Life blog, I explore how reading, writing, and emotional expression help us to grow. And on my Substack, I publish personal essays and sometimes share sneak peeks from my upcoming book. Wherever you join me, thank you for being here. And I'll see you in the next one.